A lot of people who are thinking about moving to San Diego, the area that we're going to discuss today seems to pop up a lot. For a bunch of different reasons. So that's what we're going to get into in this video, all about San Marcos. Let you guys know about new developments, what the lifestyle's like, the housing, the schools, and everything in between. So you get a good idea. We're gonna go through about 7 questions that are commonly asked when people are thinking about moving to San Marcos. So let's get into it.
So the first question that comes up a lot is, where is San Marcos? So San Marcos is located kind of right in the middle of what we often say is North County, San Diego. You'll hear us reference North County a lot, but it's right in the middle, a little bit more inland. So kind of on that border of coastal versus inland towns. Not quite as hot as, say, Escondido to the east, but a little bit warmer than Carlsbad to the west. You're looking at about 40 minutes to the airport.
And it also depends, because San Marcos is split into 2 different areas. So we'll get into the freeways here in a sec, but you have northern San Marcos, which is 92069. You have southern San Marcos, which is the area we're sitting right now, 078. So if you're in the northern section, it's probably at about 10 minutes or so to your commute. You're gonna have to drive down the freeway, you're gonna have to cut across. And get into the size of San Marcos, it's about 95,000 population. So it's kind of right in the middle, where you have like small little cities like Del Mar, which is like 3,000. You get into like Encinitas, which is like 60,000. Then you get into somewhere like Carlsbad, which is like 120, 130,000 in there. So it's kind of one of the mid-sized cities right here in San Diego. And then just surrounding it, you have Vista, you have Escondido, you have Carlsbad. It's kind of the main 3 around there. So if you've heard of those areas, it's smack dab in the center of that.
Next question we get a lot is, what's our commute going to be like? And obviously this is going to be different for a lot of people, but San Marcos has some main highways going through it, kind of splitting it right in half. Like Chris mentioned, the 2 zip codes is the 78 highway that takes you east to west. So it gets you out to the 5 freeway if you're going in that direction, and it gets you out to the 15 if you're going out a little bit more inland. Getting to these highways is super convenient from San Marcos, so a lot of people that are commuting choose this as a spot just because it is a good jumping off place.
And if you are moving here, you're definitely going to be, well, not definitely, but you have a good chance that you're going to be commuting. There's not a ton of like business hubs right in San Marcos. There's a few companies and stuff, but most of the kind of business hubs, if you're going to certain areas of Carlsbad or Sorrento Valley or downtown or Kearny Mesa, are going to be a commute. So first off, yes, you're going to need a car. We are a commuter city, but you're going to be hopping on the 78. If you're going to Carlsbad, you're going to be heading west on the 78. Not too bad. We'll bring up a map right now, show you about timeframes for that. There's certain little areas that can get a little congested coming back, but that's with all of these routes here too. If you're going down to, let's say like Sorrento Valley for work, that's like Qualcomm down there, a few other big businesses, that's like a big business hub. There, depending on where you're living, there's gonna be a few different ways to get down there. But once again, here's the map coming up right now. And then if you're going downtown, whether it be for work or whether it be for the airport, we're bringing up the map right now to show you a few different times, because as with anywhere, rush hours are going to add a little bit of traffic going through here. And us living up here in North County, San Diego, one of the only times, because we don't work down in downtown San Diego, but one of the only times we're going to downtown San Diego is like going to catch a Padres game or going to the airport. So that's pretty convenient too, where you could hop on the 78, usually going down the 15, and then the 163. That's what we call the freeways, the 5, the 15, the 56. That's just a thing right here in San Diego. We don't call it like I-5 or Interstate 78. If you are going down there, it's easy to get down there. I'll show you a few times during commutes. Maybe you're catching a flight to somewhere on a Saturday. You're going to see right here, it's fairly easy to get down there. Now, yeah, if you live north, it's going to be a little bit harder, but for the most part, it is not too far. You're within 45 minutes in pretty much every area of San Marcos.
Another thing on commuting is a lot of people want to know how close you are to the beach. And San Marcos, like we talked about, it's split in half. There's on the southern half, you're probably going to go straight shot to like Ponto, which is about a 25-minute drive for most spots here in like San Diego Hills, Discovery Hills. like San Marcos. And if you're up in kind of that northern section north of the 78, you're going to jump on the 78 and take it all the way down probably to Oceanside or maybe North Carlsbad.
And if you do want to know the best beaches, typically the best beaches are going to be the ones closest to your house. So like wherever the straight shot is. If you're getting on the 78 freeway, where's the closest beach? You know, you're going to the harbor, maybe you're going down to Tamarack. If you're living in southern San Marcos, where we're sitting right now, you might be going to those Ponto beaches because it's a little bit more of a straight shot. Unless you're going surfing, you're going to find your little surf breaks. It's a little more dialed in. You're going to choose a little differently. But if you're going to hang out with the family, you're just going for a day at the beach, you're going to watch a sunset, you're going to go basically to the closest beach to you. Now, what makes San Marcos so special? So San Marcos is known for a few things, one of it being the current development that's going on, the current growth we're seeing, which we'll cover here in a minute, but also the schools. As they've built all this development, they built new schools over here. They've actually ripped down old schools and built brand new ones over in Richland, in northern San Marcos, and also the community vibe throughout San Marcos. I grew up in San Marcos myself. In the northern section of San Marcos, it was totally different back then. And then also the diverse housing options from like starter condos all the way up to some of the homes back on the hill here, just luxury properties in San Leo Hills, big, beautiful ocean views. Like you have the whole gamut of different properties. Even some of the older homes that in northern San Marcos, you're gonna find a lot of the older homes, not crazy old, 60s, 70s, 80s. When you get into San Leo Hills, that was like 2000s. Lake San Marcos is actually pretty old, but they've been seeing a lot of people coming in there, flipping homes, kind of improving them, gutting them, making them like brand new houses. So you're gonna find a lot of different housing options depending on what you are looking for right here in San Marcos. Do you want tract neighborhoods? Do you want a little bit further out there? Now there's gonna be some better areas for that too, but you do have a lot of different options.
One of the other big reasons that people move out here and just why San Marcos just stands out from the rest is the park systems and trails. So if you are going to the park often, or if you're jumping on trails often, San Marcos is a great spot. I mean, from right here where we're sitting, you're 2 minutes away from two big trailheads that you could walk forever. So the city has really great parks. We've played soccer tournaments at Walnut Grove, which is kind of to the north. Chris and I play softball at Hollandia, which is a really pretty park, and also San Leo Hills here in the community. And then you also have a lot of parks like this behind us. So a lot of just community parks in Discovery Hills or here in San Leo Hills. A question we get a lot also is San Marcos still growing? Or is there still new development happening here in San Marcos? And the question is yes, but it's slowing. So a lot of the huge projects that we've seen over the last few years, starting kind of early 2000s, San Leo Hills was the first one, Rancho Tesoro is another huge one. There's also a ton of growth happening around Cal State San Marcos. So North City has been a huge project for a lot of years now and is continuing to grow. And you'll see that probably over the next 10 years. It'll take a long time to develop, but it'll be awesome. That also goes along with the Creek project that made it walkable. So they put trail systems through it, also made it so it's not going to flood anymore, put bridges through. So there's just been a lot of development kind of in that area.
When we were growing up here, it was like you go down to the end of Discovery and then there's a little stop sign, you make a turn, and it was kind of like grass fields. And now there's like new construction going on out there. That was just like completely flooded because the San Marcos Creek would come down and just like pool over there. So it was a mess. Now, last time they finished like the whole creek project, so it's like this big, huge thing where all the water runs down. And I saw it after one of the big rains last year. It was gnarly. It was how much water was down there flowing, and that just used to go there and sit and flood out that entire area. That's now been corrected. And so North City is the biggest development that's going on right now. It's part of like right by Cal State San Marcos, which has seen some growth as well over these past few years. But I'm thinking it's going to be like the new downtown of San Marcos, where you do have portions of it right now where you have Draft Republic, you do have Buena Forchetta, you do have an ice cream place down there. There's a few, like a coffee spot, sushi spot. You do have a few places, but as they go across Twin Oaks, where they have it all graded, they have it almost ready to be built up, that whole area is going to be a mix of commercial and residential. So I think that's going to continue down there because the old place that was like downtown San Marcos, which doesn't really have a downtown per se, was Restaurant Row. That's been shut down. That used to be restaurants, the movie theater's still there, but there used to be like a bunch of local spots in there, but that is going to be torn down. They're actually building new construction there with a little bit of commercial at the bottom. At the end of Las Posas, they just finished a few new construction communities out there. And also up in northern San Marcos, where there's actually a lot of that rural space. I think over time, a lot of that rural space will be built out, and it will be new construction communities. There's another one going on right north of Walnut Grove Park up there too. And I think we'll start seeing more of that. Just as cities expand, as they build out, you just tend to see that where they used to be, greenhouses and like big plots of farmland. Now that will potentially disappear over the future. Not like immediately, but like long term for San Marcos, I would assume that would be built out at some point as well.
And we've seen that growth in a lot of cities. So Carlsbad is pretty much maxed out on what they can build. There's not very much open space left. Encinitas took a lot of like the farmland where they grew flowers for a really long time, and that's new housing developments. So, and there's really no land left in Encinitas either. So we'll see that in kind of the outskirts of San Marcos for sure in the coming years. And even where we're at right now, San Alejo Hills was open space when we were kids. It was it's
a big hill.
Yeah,
it was
just
mountain.
hills.
There's nothing back here.
Yeah, exactly. And there were no trails or anything, or there weren't very many trails and stuff out here either. It was really a place that people just didn't go. But now it's schools, housing, it's trail systems, it's restaurants, grocery stores. It is its own big community here in San Marcos.
Another question that people are asking, okay, is it all tract neighborhoods, or is there some areas that are a little more spread out, a little more space out there? Not necessarily. Older San Marcos, the northern part of San Marcos, like I said, there's a lot of single-story homes up there, so like ranch-style, smaller homes up there. And as you get to the southern portion, it's basically all master plan communities. Lake San Marcos was like one of the OG master plan communities back in the day. San Alejo Hills, which we're sitting in, we mentioned that. Discovery Hills, Rancho Tesoro, that whole section, North City, that's all southern San Marcos. So that's all tract. When you get to that little area of Twin Oaks where we mentioned it's probably going to be built out at some point, that's kind of like the only rural area. But right around here, if you are looking for that, there are definitely some options. If you go a little bit to the west, you're going to find Vista. If you go a little bit to the north, you'll find like Bonsall and Fallbrook. If you go a little bit kind of northeast, you're going to find Valley Center. If you go even to the next city over, where you go to Escondido, certain parts of Escondido, the outskirts of Escondido, you could definitely find a bit more of that. Unfortunately, right here in San Marcos, you're not going to find a ton of that, and it's not going to get better as they continue to build this out. So it will be more developed, and it's going to get a little bit busier as time goes on.
And then we also get asked a lot, what are the schools like here in San Marcos? And the real answer to that is they've improved a ton over the past years. And a lot of that is all this development that we've talked about, is a lot of dollars have gone into the school district here. San Marcos Unified has grown immensely over the last 20 years with 2 or 3 new schools. They tore San Marcos High School down completely and rebuilt it. Now it's like a college campus.
I went to the old one, and it was like those like portable buildings. It was like built in the 60s. It was it was kind of a mess. Now it's nice.
Now it's super nice. Chris mentioned Richland was completely rebuilt. So a lot of money has been put into the school districts here in San Marcos. So it has improved a ton over the last years. You can look up the ratings for each school, but we definitely suggest, our wives are teachers, so they pointed us in the right direction of this report that's on every school's website. It's called the SARC. And it's really
SARC. I'll put up a little graphic right now.
Yeah,
SARC.
So this is a report card for the school, essentially. It talks about how long teachers have been there, goes over test scores, things like that. So it is just a deeper dive into the school rather than just the ratings.
And over all this development, there's even like San Alejo, there's schools right within the neighborhood that have been built. There's a newer one at the top of the hill here that was built even newer than that. There is potential talk of one in that kind of North City area as they're building that out. There's potentially a new school coming there. So it just, yes, there's been a lot of improvement over the past few years. If you do want to dive in, just go check out those reports, go check out the individual schools and figure out the programs that you and your kids are actually looking for. Another question is, what are the things to do right here in San Marcos? Now, we've mentioned some of the hiking. Probably some of the best hiking in little areas to cruise around, and 72 miles of trails throughout San Marcos where you cruise around, find new trails. You can go on trails going up. You could go on flat trails. There's a lot of different areas. As far as San Marcos as a whole, it's not like a scene. It's not like a hub for entertainment. Restaurant Row used to be kind of like the downtown area of San Marcos. Other areas of San Marcos, you do have like San Marcos Boulevard, you're going to find some areas spread out where you're going to find your own, like local places to eat and that kind of stuff. But certain areas, like my folks live up in northern San Marcos, and around their house, I call it a food desert because there's not like a ton of good places to eat right around there. As you get into San Elijo Hills, they have their own little town center. And then throughout San Marcos, obviously, if you're living here, you're going to find some great Mexican food. You're going to find some great other spots to eat, some local spots to eat. You're also going to find a lot of chain restaurants too. So that's kind of like a lot of San Marcos. There's easily accessible to all these other areas where if you're going to the beach, if you're going to Legoland, if you're going to the safari park out in Escondido, all those are relatively close. But there's not a ton of activities, a ton to do right here in San Marcos.
Also, if you're looking for a brewery scene, San Marcos doesn't have as many as Vista, but it does have some really cool spots. We were just at Draft Republic the other day, and Tarantula Hill is now the brewery for that restaurant, which is phenomenal beers. You have Lost Abbey here in San Elijo Hills. You have one of our favorites, we've talked about it a lot, is Craft Coast, which is kind of right in the middle of San Marcos and has great tacos and great beer.
One of the best spots that was good for kids, go around there. Unfortunately, they're shutting down My Yard Live. So another backup is the other one he just mentioned, Draft Republic, kind of right around the corner. If you guys have kiddos, want to go out, grab a beer, grab some good food. They have video games in there. They have a bowling alley in there. They have a big outdoor area. Some usually have like some cornhole on one side. They have shuffleboard. So it's a cool little spot. Actually, it's a cool big spot.
Yeah.
Right in that North City area of San Marcos.
And then also San Marcos has a ton of events. They have movies in the park. They have farmers market kind of in that North City area. So there is quite a bit to do. And also some of the HOAs and some of the communities have other events as well.
And so if you are living up here, let's say you got kids, a lot of your weekends are going to be potentially playing sports. And this guy's at these sports fields throughout everywhere, all the time. Also, Bresci Ranch is another area we didn't mention, which is somewhat close to the southern area of San Marcos. That's got a lot of restaurants and food and shops and all that kind of stuff over there too. So there's, like I said, there's a bunch of little areas to strike, but a lot of times you're cruising out of San Marcos.
Big question we get a lot. Did you miss your chance to move to San Marcos? Well, we just missed our chance to film the whole thing in one spot because the sun caught up with us. But no, you didn't. There's a lot of new development happening. Obviously, it's happened a lot beginning in 2000, over the last 20, 25 years, but there is still a lot of room for growth, and there are a lot of communities that are kind of in that stage where they're kind of starting to remodel, starting to flip, like Chris mentioned Lake San Marcos, but there's communities that were built 20 years after that are going to start to do the same thing too. So we will definitely still see a ton of growth here in San Marcos.
And over these past 4 or 5 years, yes, prices have gone up by quite a bit right here in San Marcos. But when we're comparing it to value, like even price per square foot and what we're looking at from different areas around surrounding areas, if you're kind of comparing different spots, San Marcos still does have value. It does still have that room for growth as well as they're building it out, as they're developing, as they're just kind of expanding all of San Marcos. So have you missed the boat? Not yet. But if you guys are thinking about moving out here, potentially it's San Marcos. As a quick reminder, we are a real estate crew right here in San Diego, and we'd love to earn your business. So be sure to reach out. I'm Chris Erickson. We got Cassidy Lewis here, and our number's popping up right now. So take a screenshot, call, text, email. Let's start that conversation. We want to hear from you guys, get you dialed in, and really we could dive into the map of San Marcos or different areas that might work for you and show you different spots, little insider, hey, go check out this spot, go check out this area. So you get a good idea on San Marcos and if it is right for you.